Get ready, police catching you. Let's move to after COVID then, since we already touched that a little bit. You, what the different like you in terms of school and your experience in Melbourne, like your school days
Yeah,
and you changes how quick they make this announcement like in a week suddenly they tell you to
to be
download this that
very honest with you, what happens like in January when things were starting to get a little, the COVID started to become a pandemic and people started to talk about that all over the world.
kind of January. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, like end of January when it's close to the Chinese New Year. In our school, the teachers they were like starting to have some conversations with the students, saying, "Listen, guys, it's possible, depending on the level of stuff related to this COVID situation, that the school might be closed. It's a matter of when." So we don't know how we're gonna do with that, with classes and stuff like that. But don't worry, you will still be able to attend to school, but we don't know how things are gonna work. So they started to prep us for the moment that eventually the school will be closed. And then we have, they started to do this conversation at the end of January. And then we have February, all February face-to-face classes. And then in March, they're like, okay, guys, the school will be closed probably by the end of this month, like around 20 or something. And we already have the solution. We're gonna have online classes using Zoom. So at first, a lot of students they were like, "Well, that's not what we paid for. We paid to be like to have like face-to-face class. We don't pay to be stuck at home." And then the others they were like, "That's not gonna work," you know. Every everybody got a little bit like worried about how to handle situation. And some people, I remember that some of my friends from my class, from my classmates, right, two of them, they actually canceled the course and they went back to their countries because they were like, listen, if that's not what we paid for, you know, we want our money back and we just want to go back to our country. That's it. Like we're not gonna pay to stay in a country where we can go anywhere, you know, and to not gonna pay because the school is expensive. We're not gonna pay expensive to a school to not attend to school. No, that doesn't make any sense. So actually, the school, they, at the end of March, they made the announcement. Listen, the school will be closed for the next on the time on like we don't have a time to come back. Like we're gonna close, and then we can only come back when the government says so. So if any of you guys wants to return, wants to finish your course, wants to cancel, please come see us in the office. And for those of you who will choose to stay in Australia, uh, please wait for further announcements. So after that 2 weeks, they come to us and say, listen, that's how the classes will work. We're gonna put you guys in different classes because, for example, I was doing the prep for an exam, for proficiency exam.
Mhm.
The classes that are prep for proficiency exams, they will no longer be offered to the students. We are all going to be in a different class. So that's one thing that makes a lot of students feel like a little bit baffled because they're like, I'm gonna take this exam like in November, so I need to be in this class, but you're saying that you're not gonna give this class anymore. So what's the point? And then, but after a while, after like 2 or 3 months of doing video
Study from
online
home.
classes coming from home, they actually offered back those classes. And then from March, we went to classes online classes, and I got to experience 1 month of online classes because after that I finished my course and I was supposed to return to Brazil. So the struggle was real, like because we had to wake up and then we have to sit in front of the computer, but it was very boring. You know, for example, I was in the advanced level by that time, but the class that I was in, it was the intermediate class. So like most of the stuff that the people in my class they were like experienced, I was like, okay, I know that already. So what am I
Sorry,
supposed to do here?
what do you say? So you get group with other group class?
Yeah, because like remember, I was doing a class preparing for
Yeah, yeah.
a proficiency exam, and I had already taken the exam. But the classes from advanced, they were all proficiency exam. Because if you're already advanced, you don't need to do like grammar anymore. You just have to prepare for the proficiency exam.
Uh,
So because the proficiency exams class, they were not going to be offered, they put us in different classes for levels who are lower levels. So I was having class with other students from intermediate levels. So the classes were very boring, and my teacher, he was always talking to me saying like, I understand that for you this class is boring, but there's only so much we can do. Nobody was expecting this pandemic to happen. So, and I had other friends who were in the same position, and they're always saying like, "Man, I want to quit this class because like it's so boring." And for the students from the intermediate, it was also boring, not because this stuff wasn't something that was very easy for them, but it's because the whole platform was something that was getting boring. Like you wake up, you turn on your computer, and then you're there. You still lay in bed. Like you can just shut off your camera and then go back to sleep. You know.
but
So
you also change teacher.
yeah, because there's the
Same like
difference.
morning and afternoon. Same like
Remember that I told you that uh, in my school we had a core class and then you have a lunch break and then you have
yep.
like an elective class. For online classes, we only have one teacher. We don't have like core and elective. We have the whole morning the same teacher, you know, the same class basically. So that was also something that was kind of like exhausting. You had the same class from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m. and you have like small breaks during this whole class, this huge class. So after a month, I graduated from school, which was nice. I didn't get like a graduation ceremony like all my friends they get because we couldn't do like graduation and stuff like
Yes.
that. And then after that, I was supposed to return to Brazil. My class ended on April 24th of April, and I was supposed to return to Brazil is like the next week. But the thing is that because of the pandemic, my flight got canceled. So
Yes.
and my visa expiration date was in May. So the airline canceled my flight, and I was like, okay, they're gonna come up with a new date, and they did. But the new date was after my visa expiration date. So I was like, okay, that's something that is worrying because I didn't know if the immigration would give me this extra time. Like, okay, we understand they canceled your flight, it's not your fault. So you can go back to your country, that's not a problem. Or if I would still be considered illegal in Australia and had to change the visa. So I had a student advisor in the school and also had like my agent here in Brazil. So my student advisor in school, they didn't know how to like manage that. So they were like, I think it's best if you talk to your agent in Brazil. So that's what I did. And then my agent said like, listen, I think it's best if you apply to a different visa just to be safe. but we're gonna talk to like immigration and see what's the best way for you to deal with it, because no country was expecting it, so we don't know how things are going on
Yes.
between the Brazilian government and the Australian government. So after a few weeks, they give me an answer saying like, listen, you gotta apply to a new visa, because the Australian government is still
Following the
once
rule.
yeah, you still have to follow the rules of immigration, even though it's a different time, and even though it's not your fault that you're stuck in the country, you still have to follow the rules. So I had to apply to a new visa. It was easy because you can do all on the immigration website, which is nice. Because some countries, for example, I think in some of friends they were in Canada, they say that you have to go to the immigration office and stuff like that. And this it was during the middle of the pandemic, so the offices were closed.
Yes.
So it was a bit like a headache. But in Australia, it's good, you can do it all online. So I actually have to do online, apply for a new visa, and pay for a new visa. It was 300 bucks or something for the new visa, tourist visa. And before they processed the whole visa, they gave me like I don't remember. It's kind of a temporary visa, just while they're
Bridging
processing.
visa.
Yeah, a bridging visa, frankly. You know what's fun? I left Australia with the bridging visa because they never processed my application for the tourist visa. And last like 3 weeks ago, I actually got an email from immigration
But 3 weeks
saying,
ago from
"Listen,
now, from today,
yeah,
November. Yeah.
today is this in December, like 3 of December, 3rd of December. They emailed me like November, and I left Australia in June. So they emailed me saying like they are going to start process my application, and that they already saw that I left Australia. So I had the option to decline, to withdraw the application, or I could just keep on the application, but the visa could be not granted to me because I left the country. Because the rule is if you have a bridging visa, you cannot leave Australia.
Yes.
Otherwise, if you leave Australia, they are not granting you a new visa. So I was like, guys, I think you are a little bit late because like I
But you don't have
applied for
any. Sorry, you don't have any issue when you exit Australia.
no,
In
not none, because they kind of understand that the reason why people are having bridging visas is because they're applying to new visas because they need to extend their stay in the country because of like a lot of flights getting canceled. So that's why I
mm,
didn't have any trouble leaving. But I was like, yeah, so I had to actually withdraw the application 3 weeks ago, which is funny if you think about
yeah,
that,
yeah.
because
And
this
also,
was
yeah. Sorry.
because this was supposed to be like a quick solution, because like guys, this thing is happening not right now, but actually it was very
Yeah,
late.
I think in the same time they also suddenly receive a lot of application, and then
Could be.
yeah, with all the
I believe
submission.
I actually believe that that was the
Plus, maybe
case.
they're
Like
not ready
they
to work from home as well.
yes,
The
like
people.
they receive a lot of applications, so the process starts to get slow and slow and slow.
Because yeah, I
But
remember in the same time as well, you move your flight, the original flight once, and then
yeah, because
complain, and then
they
bought a
move
new
again.
one.
Because what happened? The airline that I supposed to come back, they canceled my flight once, and then they're like, you need to call the office to reschedule it. And
Get ready, police catching you.
now it's like just wait a second. We have like it's like a safety, like a guard that rides a bike in the neighborhood because it's already 11 p.m. here.
Telling you
So
to go
what
to sleep.
happened? Yeah, what happened in my case was like they canceled my flight first, and then they said like call our office, and we're gonna find you a new flight, and they did it. So my uncle, who was my sponsor, he did it. So he called the airline and they said like, listen, we have a new date, but it's like a month later than you were supposed to stay. So like I was supposed to come back to Brazil in April, but they're like, no, we have a new flight in May. And then I was like, okay, in May. So after that, they canceled again the flight in May, and then they before like they actually didn't cancel. They move up the date. They postponed it to early June. And I was like, okay, so now that's it. That's it. It's June. That's your final date. We're not gonna move it anymore. I was like, fine. But the problem is with the pandemic and not many people traveling, the airlines, a lot of airlines, they broke. They went broke. So it happens with the airline that are supposed to come. It's not that they bankrupt. It's just that
They have to
they
cancel a lot of
stop.
flights.
Yeah, they stopped doing operation in a few areas, like a few countries and stuff like that. And this this area, Australia, South America, they stopped doing this operation. So they actually canceled my flight, and they was like, "Listen, that's it. If you want, we can give you a refund, but we won't be able to be flying this area." And then we have to buy a new flight in a different airline, and that's the trouble because if you think about the world, like the globe, you have like South America, and then you have the Pacific, Australia. So I was doing like if you have like a map, it's
You're supposed
behind.
to you're supposed to catch that flight.
Yeah, I was supposed to come from Australia, cross the Pacific, and then South America. But with the new airline, I had to transit in the Middle East. So I
What
had
flight again?
Qatar. So I went to Doha, and then I had to transit in Doha and then Brazil. So instead of just like doing 14 hours from one ocean, that's it. I had to travel 14 hours from Melbourne to Doha, like go to all the way in the Middle East, and then from the Middle East all the way down from Africa to Brazil, another 15 hours. So
But less transit for you.
29 less transit, but it took
Longer.
longer, you know. So I had to transit in just one country and then São Paulo. But the thing is, when I got to São Paulo, I got to São Paulo like on a Friday, but I only managed to come back to São Luís in a Sunday because there was no flights coming from São Paulo to São Luís the whole weekend, which is actually weird because before the pandemic, you had at least 3 or 4 flights coming from São Paulo to São Luís a day, like daily 4 flights. And now we only have like one per weekend. So I actually had to stay the weekend in São Paulo. Luckily, I had some friends there, and I could stay in their apartment. And then after that, I returned to São Luís. And when I arrived in São Luís, because my parents they're in the group risk because of their already old age, so I couldn't just return home. I had to stay isolated for 15 days uh, in a different house. Like, luckily, my family we own an apartment that is closed during the whole year. It's kind of like a vacation getaway. So I stayed there for the 15 days during the isolation, and after that, I could return home. So for my parents, I think that they told me that the thing that they suffered the most was during these 15 days because like he's so close, but at the same time he's so far away. You know, they can't. For example, it's just a bus ride from where I live to the place that I was in. You know, so for my parents, they're like, when he was in Australia, like an ocean away, we already like, but we're used to it. But now that he's here and we still can touch him, we still can hug him. After like 7 months away, I think that was the hardest part for me
But
as well. Yeah.
yeah, the government follow up with you, or it's just because you doing the right thing.
Uh, no, they actually went the moment with that when I arrived in the airport in San Luis. There's this government officer. She called me And she was like, "Listen, where are you coming from?" I was like, "I'm coming from Australia." She's like, oh, "Okay, so where are you going?" Like they got my number, my address, and my email. And they're like, "We're gonna check on you in a few days to see if you're okay, if you don't feel any symptoms and stuff like that." I was like, "Sure, fine." And then they called me like twice to see how I was
That's
going.
good.
And then they asked me, "Where are you going to stay?" And I was like, "Listen, this is my home address, but I'm not gonna stay there. I'm gonna stay 15 days in this other place because I was doing isolation and stuff." And they're like, "Sure, listen, is that a problem if we call you?" I was like, "No, it's not a problem." So they actually called me twice just to check on me, see if I was
You
doing
still have
okay.
your Brazil number with you,
Yeah, I still have my
even
Brazilian
after.
number.
Okay.
Yeah, and they called me and they're like,
They follow up.
yeah, they call them. They're like, "How are you feeling? Do you feel any fever? Do you any coughing and stuff like that?" I was like, "No, not really." There's like a doctor or no, sorry, it was a nurse. The nurse called me and I was like, I talked to a nurse and they asked me how I was feeling and stuff like that, and they give me some like, "Listen, if you feel sick or stuff like that, headache, mild headache and stuff like that, please don't contact anyone. Stay at home." All of the recommendations that we already know by now.
I see. And this is June, yeah.
Yeah, June. I was already
And how's the airport? It's all like normal. It's just
not really.
quiet.
It was kind of freaky, actually kind of spooky if you think like
In Doha
the
as well.
Melbourne. Yeah, because
Yeah.
Melbourne Airport. I remember when I arrived, it was crowded, like people coming and going everywhere. But the day that I left, it was empty. It looked like a ghost town. All the shops are closed. It was like that's weird. And then the airport in Doha, it's a gigantic airport as well, like empty. It's empty. Like all the airports were empty. The Guarulhos airport in São Paulo, empty. It felt like it was there, like a ghost town, as I told you before. It was almost like, God, this airport is one of the biggest airports in Latin America, and there's no one like coming and going. And that was kind of freaky. That was kind of freaking me out. I was like, guys, that is weird because like no one was traveling, and as funny as it may seem, the airport in my city was actually more crowded than the airport in São Paulo. I think it's because it's a smaller
Yeah.
airport, but still, it's nothing considered the usual uh, movimentation. I think.
But everything on time. No, because of
Yeah,
the.
no, because of the pandemic, there's no like delays or something. Everything
Oh
was on
no,
time.
I thought like when you reach somewhere and they cancel your following
No,
flight.
everything happened was on time because uh, there's only a few airlines still traveling around the world during the, the pandemic. Nowadays, I think things are getting a little the restrictions are being lifted, so I think that the number of flights it's going
So,
up.
yes.
But by then in June, things are really weird. Some places were still in lockdown. Even Australia was. I think that now I don't think that you can travel from other country to Australia. I think you can only leave Australia. I don't think you can come unless you're a citizen or if you
Yes.
hold a PR visa.
Yes.
In Brazil,
Uh,
I don't know how things are right now. I think that you can still come to Brazil, but you have to be isolated for 14 days, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. For someone going for holiday for 2 weeks and in isolation for 14 days, not.
Well, I think you need to reschedule your flight because that's not gonna happen.
Wow.
But basically, that's it right now.
Yeah, good experience.